Good morning. Let's try that one again. Good morning. Would you please join me in standing as you're able for the posting of the colors performed by the Westchester Police Honor Guard. Remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Lakota West student Sophie Subit, and the national anthem performed by the Lakota West Choir under the direction of Susan Hartman.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose bright stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Right, face. Forward, march.
Thank you. Please be seated. Were they not amazing? Let's give them another hand. My name is Linda O'Connor. I am president of the Caring Community Collaborative, and we're very happy to welcome you to the 16th Annual Veterans Tribute. A few housekeeping details. You'll have a folder in front of you that you received as you came in the door. The agenda is there. There's also some information on some organizations you're going to hear about today. And there's also some information on some next events for C3 coming up in the next few months. Another housekeeping detail is restrooms are on either side in either hallway, midway down. We'd like to welcome some special guests and elected officials today. Please stand as I call your name and remain standing, and we'll save our applause until the end. Zach Bohannon, representing the office of Congressman Warren Davidson. Steve Schramm and Tom Farrell, Liberty Township trustees. Ann Becker, Westchester Township trustee. Judge Jennifer Meckelfresh. From the Lakota School District, Isaac Adi and Kelly Casper, Board of Education members. Dr. Ashley Whiteley, Superintendent, and Adam Zink, Treasurer. And Darian Ascoli, Assistant Treasurer. Jack Dominic, the Executive Director of the National Voice of America Museum of Broadcasting. Charles Galvin, Mason City School Board. And former State Representative Margie Condit. Please join me in welcoming them. I'd like to thank Miami University Regionals for hosting us today. They've been a terrific partner for many years in this endeavor. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Maura Casey, She's going to offer a few words to us.
Thank you, Linda, and thank you for having this event here at Miami University. It is truly an honor to host the event and an honor to be here to provide the welcome for you this morning. My name is Maura Casey. I'm the Senior Associate Dean for Academic Affairs on Miami's regional campuses, and I'm giving the welcome here on behalf of Dr. Andy Durajaye, our Vice President and Dean. He is sorry that he could not make it today, but that's my good fortune that I get to speak with you all here today. I love this event. Maybe some of you who were here last year remember that I also gave the welcome last year, and I spoke a little bit about my father. My father served during the Korean War. He was in the Navy. He was a meteorologist, and he joined the service out of high school after he graduated from high school because he was not a very good high school student. He didn't have a lot of self-esteem. He didn't have a lot of confidence. And he joined the Navy, and he learned that he had valuable skills and that he did have the intelligence to lead a successful life. And he came out of the service and went on to get his college degree and to get several graduate degrees, and I think served as a very strong role model for me in my pathway to my own education. And in thinking about my father's experience, one of the key elements there is a little something that you may be familiar with called the GI Bill, right? So one of the things that enabled my father to seek a college education after he got out of the service was the GI Bill. And recently, in giving a few other talks and doing my work for Miami University, I've had reason to think about the history of the regional campuses in Hamilton and Middletown of Miami University. And these campuses were built in response to huge increases in the number of people going to college in the post-war period, after World War II. And in large part, that was due to the GI Bill, which recognized veterans for their service in a very material and specific way to say, hey, look, people are coming back from having served their country, and we want to enable them to be able to realize the American dream, to move their lives forward through education and through social and economic prosperity. And how can we do that? We can help them go to college, right? And so as a result, Miami University at the time in the 1960s, specifically the numbers of students coming to college just blossomed, and they could not serve all of the people wanting to come to college at the main campuses of Ohio State universities. That led us to having the Ohio State higher education system that we have today. So not only did the GI Bill influence my father's life and likely my own very deeply, but also the lives of so many other people. And it's probably why I'm standing here talking to you today and why Miami has the regional campuses that it does today. So I'm very, very grateful. It's very appropriate that we get to host this, but I'm so grateful that you choose Miami University to host this event and allow us to honor people who put their country above themselves and their lives, and hopefully allowed them to and allows them to continue to lead the lives they've always wanted to and to realize that American dream. Thank you so much. Please enjoy the program today.
And now, Lakota West Choir, under the direction of Susan Hartman, Director, and Megan Johnson, Assistant Director.
celebration today. Our next piece is a patriotic salute, a favorite of many. When you hear your song of the Branch of the Military, we invite you to stand if you are able.
Marching home again, hurrah, hurrah. We'll give them a hearty welcome then, hurrah, hurrah. The men will cheer and the boys will shout, the ladies they will all turn out and we'll all feel gay when Johnny comes marching home. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Over hill, over dale, we have hit the dusty trail, and those gay songs go rolling along. For it's high, high, me in the field artillery. Count out your numbers loud and strong, and wherever we go, you will always know that those gay songs keep rolling along. Anchors aweigh, my boys, that break of day, 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 day. You are last night on shore, drink to the foam, until we meet once more. Here's wishing you a happy voyage home. So to Europe and Far East, the flag is carried by our ships in times of war and peace. And never have we struck it yet in spite of foemen's might, who cheered our crews and cheered again for showing how to fight. We're always ready for the call. We place our trust in thee. Through surf and storm and howling gale, that shall our purpose be. Semper is our guide, our fame, our glory too. To fight and save or fight and die, Coast Guard we are for you.
Thank you, guys. You're awesome as always. We don't want to, but we have to let them go back to school now. Gives you hope, doesn't it? Thanks, you guys. Well, Bob, that's what you have to follow up. Please join me in welcoming Bob Viney, representing the Submarine Cincinnati Memorial Association.
Standing behind a podium always seems like awkward to do in a room full of people. So, thank you all for inviting us to talk a little bit about the submarine memorial that's going to be built in the Metro Park grounds near the Voice of America Museum. And I'll try to run through this quickly since we only have about 10 or 15 minutes to cover it and give you a sense of what's coming. First off, these are the people that have made it possible. I see that one of the purposes of C3 is collaborative. And this would not be happening without the collaboration and cooperation and teamwork of the groups represented here. And actually started our location here at Westchester was started with a meeting with Mr. Jack Dominic, who, being the proprietor, if you will, of the grounds here, we wanted to make sure that we could be seen as a supportive and collaborative partner to what Jack has done with the Voice of America Museum, one of the hidden gems in Ohio in our country. If you haven't been there, I hope that you'll take a Saturday or Sunday and go there, especially since it's just been recently remodeled inside. That's an overview of the rendition of the memorial. It's going to be next to the existing retention pond that's on the right side of Crosley Boulevard as you drive into the Voice of America, just south of where the Voice of America Museum is. Our motto is peace, is our purpose. And one of the things that we hope to communicate to citizens is the reason that we've invested in our submarine force, in our military, is not to go out and conquer territory in other nations or to take their national resources, that it is to preserve peace and their sovereignty and the cooperation of all nations in achieving global peace. So let me give you a 3-minute video that's on the website that'll summarize a lot of this.
Captain, the ship is rigged for dive. Request permission to submerge the ship. Dive, dive, I want to see. Dive.
The USS Cincinnati Cold War Memorial Peace Pavilion commemorates the peaceful conclusion of the Cold War, honors the service of our city's namesake, the nuclear-powered submarine USS Cincinnati, which was a stalwart guardian of national security during the Cold War era, and symbolizes a commitment and investment our nation made towards peace during 50 years of Cold War conflict and dangerous uncertainty. Commissioned in 1978, USS Cincinnati served through the dissolution of the Soviet Union, which peacefully ended the Cold War. The USS Cincinnati Cold War Memorial Peace Pavilion will serve as a tribute to all of our military veterans, as well as the contributions of Cincinnatians and Cincinnati companies towards our national defense during the era that successfully ended the Cold War.
I feel as if this ship belongs to you as well as us, because you come from the city.
Nestled within the historic Voice of America Park in Westchester, just a short drive north of downtown Cincinnati, this isn't just a memorial. It's an impressive civic icon and valuable asset to the community. As children and families enter the memorial, they will experience the awesome and amazing sight of a full-size replica of the USS Cincinnati. The children are astounded by the complexity of a nuclear-powered submarine and the bravery of those who silently served under the sea. And visitors are reminded that freedom isn't free. A place to celebrate the past, navigate the present, and chart a course for generations to come. Exciting youngsters to opportunities in science, technology, engineering, and math, embodied in a modern nuclear-powered submarine. With private construction funding already identified, we now are raising a capital and endowment fund that will complete and then maintain and enhance this impressive memorial, featuring unique submarine artifacts and fuel educational programs and exhibits for eager minds to explore the range of technology and the depths of history represented by one of the most complex machines ever built. Join us in our mission to preserve history and set sail toward a brighter future.
From the USS Cincinnati! From the USS Cincinnati!
Together, we'll ensure the USS Cincinnati Cold War Memorial Peace Pavilion remains a place of honor and a salute to America's heroes.
So as the video depicts, the vision was to provide a landmark civic icon to honor the USS Cincinnati's Cold War service, as well as the contributions to the Cold War made by other veterans in all branches of services and Cincinnati companies in the greater Cincinnati area. It'll be a full-size replica, 360 feet long, 14 feet of hull height when you walk through the memorial. And the conning tower is actually 20 feet, going to be 20 feet above that. So at the top of it will be about 34 feet. You should be able to see it from almost anywhere in the Tylersville area. We have the actual conning tower, the forward planes mounted on the conning tower. The upper rudder, which is 17 feet high. The lower rudder, which always sat under the water, is also 17 feet. And so you get a sense of 34 feet of rudder was required to maneuver the ship. We also have the Big Red Machine. If you look at any of the renditions that are outside this building, there's that red square that is in the rendition. That's the emergency diesel generator backup power in case the nuclear reactor went down while we were at sea. And because it was built during the years of the Cincinnati Reds winning back-to-back World Series, it was painted red in the shipyard, and it was called the Big Red Machine. So we'll have the Big Red Machine, actual Big Red Machine, as part of the memorial. We hope to excite youngsters with submarine-related STEM education and skilled trades required to build and maintain submarines. As you may have read, we cannot meet the building requirements for new submarines to come online and replace the ones that are aging out of the fleet. We don't have enough submarine building facilities, and we surely don't have enough skilled trades to build the submarines at the rate that we need them, or even to maintain the submarines that are operating. So our country needs to increase the number of kids who get excited about science, technology, engineering, and math at an early age. So we hope that this will capture their imagination, boost the nation's ability to compete in high-tech areas around the globe. We have a built-in audience, right? Anybody that drives around here in the summer knows there's about 8,000 kids playing soccer or field hockey on the fields at the park here. And any of you parents know how things work, right? You go to a meet and you have a game at 10 and a game at 3. What do you do with the kids for 5 hours? Well, we've got an idea about where they could spend that time. We'll also reach students, scouts. There's several local high schools that have a Navy ROTC program and a Sea Cadet program that exists here in the Cincinnati area. We are working with 3 local school districts to develop the interactive content to present the science, technology, engineering, and math content to students in grade-relevant ways. I know how I could talk to you all about the technology that's in a nuclear submarine, but I wouldn't know how to do it to a 4th grader, and I wouldn't know how different that would be in doing it to a 12th grader. But the students or the school districts at Lakota, Mason, and Indian Hill have enthusiastically agreed to work with us on developing that content presentation. It's also a community venue for recreation events. It will hopefully become one of the major places for citizens to gather on national holidays. There's several ceremonies, festivals, concerts that can be held there. If you've ever been to the July 4th Day that's held at the park, it's really great except for the absence of one thing: shade. So we're going to have 360 feet of shade here for those events. The Westchester Visitors Bureau anticipates that when this is put together and combined with the Voice of America Museum, that it will become a unique historical and educational place to attract visitors from around the world. And we're going to educate our unintentional visitors from the athletic fields. It's a civic icon that really recognizes the contributions of citizens and companies from the greater Cincinnati area. As I said, we hope to attract, entertain, and educate out-of-town visitors and have patriotic and special community events there as well. These are just different versions of the different views of the rendition of the memorial. That building on the top picture on the bottom left is our educational center. That's where we will have some hands-on STEM-related activities. One of them is we're going to have a buoyancy tank in there where we can teach many of the principles of buoyancy in terms of how a submarine goes up and down, maintains depth, etc. The other thing is there's a company in Dayton that works in hydrogen refueling systems. The center of that is an electrolyzer that if you apply electricity to water in the electrolyzer, you get hydrogen at one node and oxygen at the other. That's related to submarine operations. When I was underwater, I breathed air that was made from seawater. And so by teaching the kids how an electrolyzer works, we're not only teaching them STEM topics related to how a nuclear submarine works, we're perhaps preparing them to work someday in a hydrogen economy. So these are the elements of the memorial site. We're planning a solar panel array atop the memorial, which will power all of the needs so that we don't hopefully have a regular monthly bill to pay. We have, as I said, the actual pieces. We have control room panels two panels in the control room that control basically the direction of the ship, maneuvering of the ship. The SCP is called the Ship Control Panel, where the sailors steer and control the planes. And then the BCP, which is the Ballast Control Panel, which operates the air and water systems in the tanks that enable the submarine to go up and down and change depth and maintain buoyancy. We've requested a periscope. Hasn't been confirmed yet, but we hope to have a periscope. As I talked, education center and fixed displays. Our goal is to provide a visitor experience that when you walk through the exhibit, you're going to understand which compartment of the submarine you're in and what equipment was operated there, how it operates, what's the science behind how it operates, and who were the watchstanders that stood watch in that area and what skills and trades did they have. We're also looking in stage 2 at being able to fund 4 interactive kiosks around the site where kids could actually go up and find science, technology, engineering, and math content related to their grade. So, and they would be able to choose the questions that they want to hear answers to. We've also got a wish list of about 20 other submarine artifacts. Anybody see the first Raiders of the Lost Ark movie? Right? Remember the last scene when they were taking the Ark in a crate into this big storage warehouse? Well, that was filmed at the National History and Heritage Museum, which stores over 500,000 naval artifacts from ships around the history. So I've been assured that they have many of the artifacts that are on our wish list that we'll be able to show to visitors. That's a picture of the ship control panel. The ship control panel where the steering wheel is, looks like a flight control system on an airplane almost, and the ballast control panel on the left. On the right is a picture of the Big Red Machine as it was in the actual USS Cincinnati. So our purpose is, with these 6 displays, to give you the sense of walking through the submarine. And as I said, each one will describe certain aspects of what took place in that area of the submarine. And when in stage 2, we're going to have QR codes so that as you walk through it, you could point your phone at the QR code and a voiceover narrative would give you videos and graphics of the equipment there. Let's see if there's anything new here. Developing a list of questions with the schools to see what kids are interested in hearing about, and exploring the use of AI. When we started this, we had the vision of, well, we'll present the kids with a touch screen and it'll have a list of questions and they can point at the ones they want. And the people in the school said, that's yesterday's technology. Today's technology is there's an icon dressed in a uniform of a seaman at sea who greets them, asks them what their grades are, and asks them what they're interested in hearing about. So it's much more engaging than even a touchscreen interface would be. Talked about the trough and the tabletop electrolyzer. We're also planning to do navigational exercises there, which is related to math. Nuclear power plant output calculations, which is related to a lot of science and math. Turbine generator power output calculations, and many other ideas to teach kids relative skills and build their interest in those technical areas. Construction's underway. We hope to complete early fall 2025. The 125th anniversary of the submarine force is April 11th of that year. We probably will not be complete at that time, but still able to hold a celebration there. The 250th birthday of the Navy is October 13th, 2025. That's the target date we're shooting for. And at that time, the new entrance to Metro Parks, which is going to be where the construction road is now if you drive down Tylersville Road, and it's opposite Pepper Pike, that will become the new multi-lane entrance to the whole new Butler County Metro Park. And then, of course, July 4th, 2026, we have a pretty big event, the 250th birthday of the country. Fundraising is underway. In your envelopes or in the folders you got, there's a little fundraising card. We've raised $6.5 million toward an $8 million goal for construction. We are looking to raise $500,000 for endowment, which would pay for all the maintenance and upkeep of the memorial over time. So our goal was no taxpayer money to build, operate, or maintain this memorial. And our educational program fund, when we need to build interactive kiosks and so forth, AI-related stuff, we estimate that probably will need an extra $1 million. Those are some of the sponsorship opportunities. We're hoping that some of the companies will step forward and want to be the sponsor for the education center. Wouldn't it be great to go into the General Electric Education Center? By the way, General Electric built the nuclear power plant for the USS Cincinnati. It's their nuclear division, not the Evendale group. Our website, subcincy.org. You can get additional information. There's a donation page. That's my email if you would like additional information. Be happy to talk to anybody who would like additional information. I don't know if we have time for any questions. Thank you, everybody.
That is a meaningful addition to our community and a recognition of our nation's history. Thank you so much. Our keynote speaker today, Todd Wilkowski, is going to share his experiences while serving our country. He attended the Air Force Academy and graduated in the class of 1989 as a distinguished graduate in the top 10% of his class. He served 5 years active duty, working primarily at the Pentagon and in South America as a counter-drug, counter-terrorism intelligence officer. He served with the Defense Intelligence Agency and the Joint Chiefs of Staff during the drug war. He was honorably discharged in 1994 and received the Defense Meritorious Service Award for his service. He's now an attorney with Frost Brown Todd, and he focuses his practice on serving private, closely held, and/or family-owned businesses as their outside general counsel and trusted advisor on all legal and risk issues. He's been a practicing attorney for 26 years. Please join me in welcoming him.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, thanks everybody for coming today. I think it's a very, very meaningful celebration. Many of you have been here before. Some of you, this is their first time, but for this week. Because particularly when you think about what just happened on Tuesday. And clearly there's going to be a portion of the population that's not happy with the results and others that are very happy. But here's what happened, and here's what's going to happen. We're going to have a peaceful transition of power in our country. And sometimes we take that for granted, don't we? But there's a reason why we have that. And that's because a lot of these gentlemen and women that are sitting out here, because that's one of those things that's never guaranteed. And if you've served in other countries, as many of us have, you realize that's a right that has to be fought for. It's God-given, it's constitutionally memorialized, but it has to be defended and protected. So it's really great to be here today on this week. The other thing is Butler County, Clermont County, disproportionately in many ways, has more veterans in our country that have served in our country. All you have to do is drive through Blanchester, drive through Loveland, drive through some of our other cities, and you'll see pictures of heroes that have served all the way from the Civil War up until the recent war in the Middle East, through Vietnam, through Korea, through World War II, through World War I. So I appreciate you having me here today. I'm going to tell you, there's some background on what my background is, but I wanted to tell you a couple of stories and I wanted to emphasize a couple of principles. So the first thing is, I was born in the Philippines. I don't look it, but I was. My dad was in Vietnam. He flew C-130s. He was a navigator. And one of the first stories I wanted to share with you is that he would fly Agent Orange into theater, and he'd fly body bags out. And probably 80% of his crew died of colon cancer and prostate cancer because of the exposure to Agent Orange. But my own personal story was this. My mom and dad loved to dance. In fact, our family did. We ended up having 3 siblings, and we'd love to go to the Officers Club on the weekends, on Friday. But this one particular time, my mom was pregnant with me. She was 7 months pregnant. She was dancing with her gynecologist, ironically. And if anybody's been pregnant, I know I haven't been, your balance is a little bit jacked up. So what happened was he decided to do some kind of funky spin with her, and as she was spinning, she started to fall. And instead of falling on me, as most mothers would make a sacrifice, she fell very awkwardly, and she broke her plateau tibia. And she spent most of her pregnancy in a hospital in traction. But what happened was my dad asked his commanding officer if he could be with her, especially during the first couple of hours, and he agreed. And my dad was scheduled to be on a C-130 that next day with his crew had a forced landing, and 2 of his crew members died. That could have been my dad. That's how things happen in war. So thank God it didn't, but I always think about the families of those individuals that were lost in that plane. I come from a legacy of service. My grandfather, Richard Baumgartner, was in the Navy. He served in Guadalcanal. If anybody knows about Guadalcanal, and I know most of us, our Navy friends, are very familiar with that history, it was the bloodiest war, probably in World War II, in campaign. And he survived that. My grandfather was in the Army. He was a second-generation Polish. His parents were immigrants. So it was instilled in me from the beginning about service, and about particularly service in the military. I went to the Air Force Academy, not because my dad wanted me to go there. In fact, he tried to convince me not to. He said I had had enough discipline already, and believe me, I had. Great Santini, almost there. But I remember at the academy, it was a very interesting time. It was in 1985. We had a lot of really cool experiences. I got a chance to jump out of a perfectly good airplane 5 times, solo some planes. We replicated what I know some have gone through as pilots. Linda's husband, who's an F-16 pilot. We did survival, evasion, resistance, and escape camp. That was for 3 weeks. And what I can tell you I have a full appreciation of is those who served and were captured as POWs, because we had 3 days of isolation in a camp and interrogation, and you can only imagine what it looked like for people for 7 years. 7 years to be in a prisoner of war camp in Vietnam, eating gravel, being isolated, which were not meant to be isolated, and some of them dying because they wouldn't give up their country. So I graduated from the academy. My dream, especially after being there for 4 years, when you've got every formation, every football game, you've got fighter jets going over. I I started in 1985. We know what happened in 1986. There was this little movie called Top Gun. So that's what I thought my identity was going to be. And I was fortunate enough to go to the top, at that time, pilot training base. And I was going to be a pilot until I wasn't. And after 2 months, I wasn't able to land a plane. Actually, my instructor said I could land a plane, especially if I would have been in the Navy, because of the way I just awkwardly, I'd always land it, but I think I scared the absolute garbage out of them. So that left me in a very difficult time as a 22-year-old, because I didn't know what my identity was, because I thought I knew what it was. And I'm a man of deep faith, and I certainly believe God had a plan, and he led me in a different direction than what I expected, which often happens to those of us who are veterans. You have to adapt. You have to adapt to change. But I ended up in intelligence school. I had been a poli-sci major, and I spoke Spanish, still do. And I ended up going to this little place called the Pentagon as a second lieutenant. And if anybody's worked at the Pentagon, you know there's not a lot of second lieutenants there, butter bars. A lot of generals, a lot of colonels. In fact, I got more looks as I was going to the athletic center than anyone. And man, did I have to salute. Man, my arm was really tired after a long time. But it was a really interesting time because it was the year right before, in 91, when we went into the Gulf War. So I started in 1990, and we only had one war at that time, and it was the drug war. It was an overseas interdiction war, and we were very active overseas trying to stop drugs from coming into this country. And I was assigned to Peru and Ecuador. That was my desk. And I spent a number of, almost a year total in Peru and in Ecuador, undercover. You can imagine how that worked. But working with the DEA and the CIA, and I have one particular story to share from that, and that was one afternoon, probably about 4 o'clock, somebody ran into our office and said, "Turn on the satellite projector." And so everybody kind of rushed to make that happen. And the individual said, "Closer, closer, closer." We got him. It was Pablo. So we were the first ones to actually identify Pablo on that rooftop. And then that gentleman went on to call Colin Powell and Dick Cheney. So a lot of you have much cooler war stories than I do, but that's my war story. So I spent 5 years in the military. Still one of the greatest experiences I've ever had. The knowledge of mission, the knowledge of teamwork, how we all came together, something that would be very beneficial to our country and hopefully will be in the next couple of years. And then I got out, and it wasn't about not serving anymore, because all of us are called to serve, and especially veterans, we know that, but it was called to serve in a different arena. And so a couple of different principles as I was just kind of thinking about what to talk to everyone about, and also to honor all of the veterans that are here. The first principle, I would say, would be service. Would be service. And oftentimes on Veterans Day, we get thanked. Thank you for your service. And sometimes throughout the year. And I've got to be honest with you, and I think most of you all would agree, that is really, really hard sometimes. Because what we remember is, we're here. But there's a lot of our comrades that are not. That we were the ones that made it back, and they didn't. And so while we appreciate that, it reminds us of that. The second thing is, I really wanted to point out Linda and any others of you that were dependents and were spouses of people that served overseas, because they sacrificed a ton too. And the reason that many of us could go off and feel good about the folks that we left behind and our families were because of those that were back here with the yeoman's tour of raising families. So thank you all for you all that did that, because that was a major sacrifice. It was a major sacrifice for many of us who were dependents that we had to move. I moved about 11 times before I finished high school. And while that taught me some great skills, it's very hard to reinvent yourself every year or 2 years. But one of the things, and I say too, when we talk about service, our service never ends after the military. And our service never ends for any of us, right? We were created to serve. When you think about service and you think about going out to serve others, the reality is, well, I went out to serve others. What a magnanimous thing I did. But how many times do we come back and go, I got a heck of a lot more out of that than they did, right? So service, when you say thank you for your service, it kind of denotes it's over. Well, it's not. It's just a different vineyard. So service is critical. The second thing is sacrifice. And again, just hearkening back to those who were here to support all of us that were overseas. But also sacrifice meant that not only young men and women gave up on their careers, they gave up on their future. If you can do anything tangible, and I know it's not Memorial Day, but it's Veterans Day, is watch one of the movies about these young 17, 18-year-old young men that went off. And they never had a future. They never had kids. They gave everything. Saving Private Ryan, if you haven't seen that, check that out. You know, think about a mother who had already lost 3 of her sons. Parents' worst nightmare. Sacrifice, too, the ultimate sacrifice, and many of us know brothers and sisters in arms that have lost it. I wanted to share one tangible example. One of my classmates, his name was Kevin Shea. Kevin Shea was a multiple varsity letterman out of a very distinguished school in Seattle. He came to the Air Force Academy Prep School, and then he was accepted and received an appointment to the United States Air Force Academy. He was an outstanding football player. But more than that, he was an outstanding individual. After he decided to stop playing football, back when we had a good football team, Navy just beat us. I congratulated Bob. He decided to join the rugby team and lead the rugby team to a national championship. But the most important thing is what he did after that. See, because when he was a junior, because of some sporting injury, he became non-poly qualified. So he, like me, after I graduated, had to figure out what was next. And so he decided to cross-commission into the Navy, and specifically into the Marine Corps, which is certainly no easy task, especially for our brother Marines that are here that know that. And he served in the Marines distinguishedly for many, many years. He ended up becoming part of Special Operations Command. He was in Iraq and was actually in a Humvee that ran over an IED and that literally, as many times would kill a number of people that were in it. But he and the 2 people that were riding with him were able to, they were thrown from the vehicle, but then they underwent enemy fire. And Kevin, with a pistol, held them off and saved all of his individuals. And he was already going to be awarded the Bronze Star, which is a pretty significant award for valor in combat. And he was supposed to go home. He had 2 children, 2 young children, 10 years and 7 years old. But the person that was supposed to replace him in communications had not shown up yet. So Kevin said, I'm not leaving my men. I'm not leaving my troops. So he stayed for an extra 2 weeks. And on his 38th birthday, he was killed by an APG that went into camp. So that is what sacrifice looks like. That's and that was almost 20 years ago. And he's become a great hero for us. Others of us I know here have stories about individuals like that. But ultimately, that's what sacrifice looks like. And finally, and tied into all these things, service and sacrifice would be selflessness. The idea that there's something much bigger than us, right? If anybody read A Purpose-Driven Life, the whole idea was, it ain't about you. Every veteran knows that. It's not about us. And in fact, to make a statement, one of the biggest things I find that we are challenged with as a nation right now is we have an addiction to security and comfort. And we have an endemic of entitlement. And that is the antidote to both of those things. Because selflessness says we have to get outside of ourselves, but to get outside of ourselves, we have to know that there's something bigger than ourselves. And that's one of the beautiful things about us who have served in the military and for others, is that we had a mission. And we were white and we were black and we came from Appalachia and we came from the city, but we had a mission. And that mission was to come together and bring synergies, as great teams do, to be able to fight and defend a country that we loved. We loved. So, on that topic, my encouragement would be that the war doesn't end for some of us that have come back. And I'm not saying for me, but I will say for other young men that have come back from the war. And we just had a breakfast on Wednesday for an organization called USA Cares. And has anybody heard of USA Cares? It's an incredible organization. And by the way, I did want to recognize, I've got several of my partners here from Frost Brown Todd, my new team. And I'm so grateful that they're here. And they were there on Wednesday. So I joined the board of USA Cares in about 2 years ago when I heard about the mission. Because what the mission is with USA Cares is they want to reduce and ultimately eliminate the number of veteran suicides in our country. 22 a day. And as I learned from my friend Linda, in Butler County and in this area, 40 a day. 40 a day, think about that. That's unacceptable. It's unacceptable, but on our shores, they're in more danger than they were overseas, right? Because it doesn't just impact the veteran that we lose. It impacts that wife and husband and family and kids for generations. And so the new battle that I'm involved in, and that I'm going to encourage all of you all to get involved in, right? Because Veterans Day shouldn't just be a day. Veterans Day is something that we should be thinking about all the time, and many of us are like, what can we do? So when you look in your I was going to close with this. When you look in your pamphlet and your brochure, you'll find this. Get the word out about what they're doing. I can tell you unequivocally, they're doing incredibly great things. Sometimes we, veterans organizations, unfortunately, we build really large staffs, and the money doesn't get to the veterans, but the money gets to the veterans. And the reality is they're stepping in the gap for veterans and their families that find themselves in a tough situation. The first thing is they come back from overseas. When they come back from overseas, they've done some incredibly cool stuff. They've had leadership experiences that many of us will never have, but they don't know how to translate that into a resume that's going to get them a job. So they can't come back, they get out, and they can't support their family. That puts them at risk. The second thing is, if they're at risk and they lose their employment, many of them are living paycheck to paycheck, and they're in danger of losing their home and going homeless. That's another big thing. And of course, there's mental illness. Some of the things that they have seen, none of us can hope to ever see. In terms of losing a friend right next to them. One day they've got one moment they got a friend, the next day they've got a body next to them. So what USA Cares does is they meet them and they stand in the gap with them during those times, those moments that we have found oftentimes lead. And it's not a hand out, it's a hand up. If they give any kind of economic assistance, they make sure they get them into financial education. So they can come alongside and walk alongside and build relationship with them. So, sacrifice, service, selflessness. We're all called to do that. Let's honor our veterans by looking for those ways that we can do that every day. And then again, there's many other ways besides USA Cares, but I would ask you to consider USA Cares as a very tangible way as you come out of here, getting the word out, learning more about it, and as you're called, supporting them financially to be able to support our veterans here on the shore. So, thank you. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Todd, for sharing that experience with us. We're going to take a moment. I'm going to walk through the room, and I'd like to individually recognize each of our veterans that are here. So as I give you the mic, would you please stand if you're able? Say your name, your branch of service. No jokes between the branches, okay? And we'd like to recognize everybody that we're able.
My name is Gene Michaelonis. I went to West Point, and I always have some fun with Bob here. Anyway, I was in the U.S. Army, and I served for 3 years.
My name is Berta Howard, and I served in the Army, 2 years in Korea and 1 year at Fort Belvoir as a dentist.
Thank you.
Hi, Chuck Weber, U.S. Army. Fort Knox is where I started out, armor officer, and Vietnam, Panama first, and then Vietnam, and then home. 2 years. Thank you.
My name is Al Kalid. I served in the U.S. Navy during the period of 1959 through the early 60s. And I was on board at the ship called the USS Northampton, but it's long been decommissioned. It was a museum. I don't know what the current status is, but that's where I was.
My name is Dick Young. I served in the U.S. Navy in the submarine service from 1969 to 1973 on Fleet Ballistic Missile Submarine.
My name is Steve Hayes. I served in the Navy, also served on submarines from active duty from 1968 to 1978, and then spent another 17 years in the reserves.
My name is Earl Walford. I was in the Navy and submarine service from 1957 to 1963.
My name is Bill Rump. I was in the Navy also on a sub-tender from 67 to 71.
My name is Dave Hale. I served 13 years in the Air Force as an F-16 pilot from 1997 to 2010.
My name is Mike Donathan. Hey, Dick, how are you? I served in the Marine Corps from 1973 to 1981, military police, presidential security guard for Richard M. Nixon, and from there to the Philippines, where I did 2 tours.
My name is Jack Birdsong. I was in the Army. I was drafted in 1966. I served in Vietnam in 67 with the Tet Offensive. I was a machine gunner in the 1st Infantry Division, so I'm happy to be home.
My name is Walt Severance. I became Sergeant, Specialist Field Class in Artillery Guided Missiles. I served from 1960 through 1963. I think the highlight of my career was when I was sent to Vietnam. I had orders to go to Vietnam, but I was sent to Thule, Greenland. And up there, at that time, President Kennedy blockaded Cuba. There was a missile crisis in October 1962. My squad had to connect. I was in the fire control. My squad was ordered to have the launching area to connect 80 missiles with atomic warhead. So we was, for 3 days, we were connected with atomic warheads to fire at Russia. We had the range 900 miles. We were 600 miles from Russia. And that was pure hell for everybody up there. It was pitch dark, 24 hours a day, and we stood on duty almost 3 days. So that was my highlight. Thank you.
Hi, Bob Viney. I served in the U.S. Navy from 1970 to 76 on a fast attack nuclear submarine out of Pearl Harbor. made two back-to-back special operations patrols in Cold War and Vietnam War areas.
Todd Wachowski, U.S. Air Force, and the drug war.
I'm Roy Hauser. I served in the Air National Guard, Air Force Air National Guard, and from 1969 to 1975. And I did refrigeration and air conditioning.
My name's Jim McLaughlin. I spent 4 years in the United States Marine Corps and 17 years in the United States Air Force.
It's true. You can wised up. I'm Terry O'Connor. I served 21 years in the Air Force, got to fly F-16s from 84 to 94.
Andy's my favorite vet.
I'm Tom Mendenhall. I'm a 1971 graduate from the United States Naval Academy. Spent 8 years as a nuclear submariner. Was on a ballistic missile submarine my first tour, and in my second tour, I actually was in Newport News Shipyard, helped build the Baton Rouge, which is SSN 689, and I was there when this USS Cincinnati, the 693, our sister ship, was launched. I actually got to watch it be launched down the ramp. So that's pretty cool, I think. And then I got out after 8 years active, spent the rest in the reserves, and retired as a Navy captain engineer rather than submariner.
Hi, my name is Doug Barr. I was in the U.S. Navy. I was an aviation electronics technician, and I made 2 deployments to Vietnam on an aircraft carrier.
And I should have recognized him before as one of our special guests, our very own police chief, Brian Rebholz.
Thank you, ma'am. That's no big deal. Good afternoon, everybody. Brian Rebholz, obviously, United States Air Force, 1984 to 1991, out of 1st TAC Fighter Wing, Langley Air Force Base, Virginia, 1st Security Police Squadron, Persian Gulf vet, Desert Shield, and Desert Storm. So about 7 years, almost 7 years.
Frank Lambert. I served in the Navy from 1981 to 1992.
Anyone else over here? Think about. Nope. Thank you.
Ralph Bicknell, U.S. Army, Vietnam, 1968-69.
Did we miss anyone?
Dennis Preston. I went to Vietnam in 2 days after Nixon was elected in 69 or 68, and I spent most of my time in Vietnam in 2 different locations, Central Highlands and then down to the 2 Corps area of Quy Nhon, and I was a first lieutenant. About it.
Anyone else?
U.S. Air Force. I was B-52 Squadron, 62nd Bomb Squadron, 8th Air Force, 82 to 89. Was mostly a Cold War warrior, sitting on alert most of the time. Tail end, my squadron did launch Desert Storm. I did serve in the reserve, being a liaison for the Air Force Academy and ROTC programs, trying to get a lot of kids into the academy and get them scholarships. And currently involved now with the new military organization. Well, it's not new. It's a MOA. It's actually an advocacy group, Military Officers of America Association advocacy group fighting for veterans and their benefits, and also trying to get involved with other assistance programs for veterans. Thanks.
Anyone else? Think about the collective years of service in this room. Please give them a round. How many of you, husband, wife, military spouse, child, how many of you have family? Thank you for that. Sorry, that's one of my favorite moments of the day, so. I'd like to thank our speakers, Bob Viney and Todd Wilkowski, for sharing your stories with us. Wonderful addition to our community, and we're looking forward to that. And Todd, thank you for recognizing those key principles that drive the veterans in this room. I also want to thank Lakota West and Miami University for their support, Tom Caper for AV services, and Westchester TV, thank you for being here to videotape our program. Thank you all for joining us today. Todd had referenced some challenges that our current vets and those that are returning face. We're going to give you a way to help today that will just take less than 5 minutes of your time. We had 57 suicides in Butler County last year, and 9 of those were veterans, and that's 9 too many. It's 57 too many, but for today, I want you to think about those 9. And as Todd mentioned, 22 veterans die by their own hand every day across our nation. So my team is going to pass out a card, looks like this, has a QR code on it. And the QR code, or the assessment, was developed by a state organization that determines how we meet mental health needs within our community. This is a chance for all of you that are here today that care about our vets to weigh in on this really important issue. So it'll take you less than 5 minutes. You can do it on your phone, and I'd ask you to try to do it before you leave today. It's really important to have your voice and your input. How can we better meet the mental health needs within our community? So if you could please do that, it would be a tremendous way to help. Our final thanks and gratitude go to our community veterans and their families for the service and sacrifice on behalf of our nation. God bless you all, and thank you for coming.